Coming right up, a special edition of Straight Talk, a conversation with Long Beach City Auditor Laura Dowd, tonight on Straight Talk.
Opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Charter Communications nor its sponsors. We recognize our obligation to present opposing points of view by responsible spokespersons. For information, please contact the director of program.
She stands in the face of evil and will not lose hope or faith. America, the land of freedom, is still the home of the brave. So raise the banner, call no glory. Let us join our fellow man. History will write the story. America will always stand.
Straight Talk is brought to you in part by Southern California Edison. For over 100 years, life powered by Edison. The Press Telegram, your local news leader for over 100 years. And Long Beach Magazine. Coastal Living, City Style.
Join us for tonight's edition of Straight Talk. And now your host, Art Levine.
Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk. We're delighted to have as our guest for the entire show tonight the Long Beach City Auditor Laura Dowd. Laura, welcome back to our show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Art.
You've been here each year and been able to share with our viewers accomplishments of your office. Why don't we review your 3 years in office and highlight some of the major accomplishments?
That sounds great. Well, thank you very much. I can't believe it's been 3 years already. The time has flown by so fast. We've been busy working, producing a number of audits, and it's really been probably 3 of the most fulfilling years of my professional career. So I'm really grateful for this honor to serve the community. And you know, the first thing we did was the oil production tax. We reviewed and audited the city's oil production tax to make sure that we were receiving an equitable amount.
This is a tax imposed on the producers of oil in the oil fields, both offshore and onshore, and we get a certain amount per barrel, and your office reviewed the rates and found that they were a bit low.
Yes, that's right, and thank you for clarifying that, because it was not, or it is not, a tax on the consumers, but a tax on the oil producers from extracting oil. So per barrel, the city was charging 15 cents. And this had not been updated in 16 years. So we reviewed this and we made a recommendation to the City Council to increase it to 40 cents, which would bring in approximately $3 to $4 million every year to the city.
And that was put on the ballot and voted on and approved by the people.
That's right. We required a ballot measure, and it was a really great experience working together with the media, with the council, the mayor. The council approved this, obviously, and dedicated this money for public safety, which was and is a huge benefit to the public. So the public was on board, and this whole campaign effort really needed to show the public that this was a tax on the oil producers, not on them.
And as I recall, that measure passed with 60 or 70%.
70%.
70% for tax increases, which is not on the people, but still it was a tax increase, and it generates almost $3.4 million a year for public safety, police and fire.
Exactly. So it was a real successful campaign. The public, they understood it, and it's been a great benefit to the citizens of Long Beach. And I would like to mention, since then, this $3.4 million has hired additional police officers, additional firefighters. The city has purchased a fire truck, and it's just a great benefit.
Well,
this Proposition H, as it's referred to, requires our office to audit this money each year to ensure that the oil producers are remitting the correct amount and that the money is specifically used for public safety. And I'd like to certify that we looked at this and it is.
Great. Well, to me, this is just money we were leaving on the table. You saw it and came up with a creative remedy. Now, you also did an audit of the police department, which was a management audit. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, thank you very much. One of the first questions we also asked ourselves when we took office was, what's one of the biggest problems facing Long Beach? And one of the biggest problems was the budget, obviously, the general fund budgets that serves the public. So when we looked at the general fund, we saw that the police department was 50% of the general fund. The next question we asked, well, when was the last time the police department was audited? Excuse me, and it had been about 12 years. So we decided to audit the police department. They were very cooperative. They opened their books, they worked with us, and we made several recommendations for the police department. One, we found that they had spent a lot of money in overtime.
Overtime, yeah.
And that they had a lot of police officers behind desks and doing administrative functions. So a couple of our recommendations, one dealt with use the officers in administrative, move them out to patrol into public safety and fill those with civilians. And also regarding overtime, we had some deployment or redeployment strategies that could reduce their callback and allow their overtime to decrease. And so I would like to report that in the first year since our audit was recommended, the first year they have reduced their overtime by $4 million.
That's fantastic.
And without reducing patrol on the streets. So they really took it to heart, and I'm very pleased to report that this has had a significant effect on the general fund budget. We also found that there were approximately $12 million of unpaid parking tickets. And so we recommended this booting or wheel clamping program where for those who did not pay, who had 5 outstanding parking tickets or more, that we would put a
And you
boot
got
on.
some pushback on that initially.
We did. Initially, people were rolling their eyes and laughing at it, but we did further analysis to show the costs and the benefits of this booting program. And the costs are minimal. The boots don't cost very much money, but we felt like the benefits would be huge. And so the council did agree to start a pilot program. It is being implemented now for the first time, I'm pleased to report, and we'll come back with you sometime with the results. But it is working, and people are paying their unpaid parking tickets, and we really couldn't afford not to do this program.
Again, money left on the table, and you came up with a creative solution.
Right. I mean, in these times, you really have to be innovative and find ways to collect every dollar that's due to the city, and that's my job, and we're doing it.
Finally, to thine own self be true, as it says in the Bible, you decided to audit the city auditor's office. Tell us about that.
Well, thank you. And as you know, before we went to other departments to make recommendations for improvement, we wanted to audit ourselves and make sure that we are operating efficiently and effectively and at the highest standard possible. And so I did hire an auditor first to come in to show us how we could be more efficient. His main finding was that this office of the city auditor had not undergone the required mandatory peer review that's required by generally accepted government auditing standards. So this has been required since 1980, and our office of the Long Beach City Auditor had never undergone a required audit since 1980, in the 1980s. And so we, for the first time, opened ourselves up to an independent audit to come in to ensure that we are in complete compliance with all the standards.
And that audit has been
It has been done for the first time, and we passed it with full
Congratulations.
compliance. And I'm very pleased to report to the public that they do have an auditor's office that has complied with the standards, that's reliable, that's credible, and that's doing everything we can to serve the citizens of Long Beach.
Thank you. And I would like to add to that an independently elected auditor, one of the few cities in the state of California where the auditor is elected by the people, and I feel strongly that's a good system. We'll be back with more of our show after these messages.